Hello and welcome back to our countdown to Christmas. It's the 23rd of December. We're almost there, guys. And of course, we've got another video for you. You know the drill. It's Team Necrons against Team Space Marines. And currently the scores are very close. Team Necrons are winning this thing 12 points to 10. And today we've got two of my most favourite HQs within the game going against one another. The Catacomb Command Barge going up against the Chaplain on a bike. He's of course a Primaris Chaplain. Now because of fairness of points, I've given the Chaplain on a bike the Master of Sanctity upgrade. So as you can see here, it's 155 points for the Command Barge and it's 140 points for the Chaplain on the bike, who is now a Master of Sanctity. So it's still a 15 points difference there. Now there is upgrade options for the Command Barge, which we will touch upon, but I'm going to try my best to keep him as cheap as possible, even though there are options available. So I've just displayed here what the Master of Sanctity does. It's 25 points, so he's going to be able to know and recite an additional litany in the command phase. So we've got 5 topics today for you, and I'm going to give a point to a unit for each topic, and if there's a tiebreaker at the end, we'll go on to the decider. So let's start with the actual stats to compare. So the Chaplain on a bike has got a slightly better movement of 14 inches in total, but the Command Barge has quite a few better stats. So for example, the ballistic skill is a 2+, the strength is a 5 not a 4, the toughness is a 6 not a 5, and there's 9 wounds as opposed to 7. Now we've got to expect this kind of thing within the video because it's slightly more expensive of course, but this one I've got to give the point to the Command Barge. Now as for the abilities, there's loads of abilities for the Command Barge here. Living Metal of course, Command Protocols, which will be working as long as this model's alive because it's a noble unit. He's then got the My Will Be Done ability for core units within 9 inches to have a +1 to their hit rolls. Relentless March for those same units within 6 inches to add 1 to their movement. Quantum Shielding for a 5+ invuln save, and he can't wound on less than a 4+. And there's no Phase Shifter invuln save, it's not a 4+, it's an actual 5+ invuln save. Then it's got the Explode and Hovering ability, which is just standard for vehicles, isn't it? Now as for the Chaplain on the bike, or the Master of Sanctity if you like, Angels of Death of course because it's a Space Marine. It's got the Rosarius, so it's going to have a 4+ invulnerable save, so it does have a better invuln save there. Spiritual Leaders, which is an aura for friendly chapter core units within 6 inches to use his leadership. It's got Turbo Boost because it's on a bike, so if he's advancing it's going to be a straight 6 inches as opposed to a d6 roll. And then he's got the Raven Wing and Wolf Priest keywords if you're playing with Dark Angels or if you're playing with Space Wolves. Now I wanted to put here that he's also got his litanies. They're abilities at the end of the day, so we've got to put them here. And he's a Master of Sanctity, so he's going to have the Litany of Hate and then 2 additional litanies on top of that, which are going to affect core units, character units, as well as himself. So how I've scored this one, I've given the points to both of them. Without those litanies, the Command Barge definitely wins it with the My Will Be Done ability and the Quantum Shield ability. But once you start putting those litanies into play, it's definitely got some value there. So I'm going to be giving the point to both of these. Now as for the damage output, starting off with the Command Barge, now as mentioned in the intro, I'm going with the cheapest possible method just to try and keep this as fair as possible. So I'm keeping with the Tesla Cannon and the Staff of Light. So the Staff of Light you can use in both melee and at range, and of course you can fire it into combat because it's a vehicle model as well. 18-inch range, Assault 3, Strength 5, -2 AP, 1 damage, and the melee version is the exact same but with 4 attacks as opposed to Assault 3. Then on top of that, the Tesla Cannon, which is a 30-inch range, Heavy 3, Strength 6, no AP, 1 damage, and any 6s will score 2 additional hits, so you've got half a chance of getting a 6 there out of your 3 shots. Now it does have options. I already mentioned a few times now, I'm not going to be adding these options on. The Ghost Cannon is there for 5 points to swap out with the Tesla Cannon. Then you've got some melee options like the Hypervade Sword and the Void Blade, which I think both of those are kind of poor options if I'm honest. Then the War Scythe, which is a good option for 5 points again, Strength 7, -4 AP and 2 damage. But we're not going to be using those for the purpose of this video. As for the Chaplain on the bike, well, he's got the Absolver Bolt Pistol, 18-inch range, Pistol 1, Strength 5, -1 AP and 2 damage, so not bad in the damage department and can be fired into combat. It's then got the Twin Bolt Rifle on the front of the bike of course, 30-inch range, Rapid Fire 2, Strength 4, -1 AP, 1 damage. His melee weapon is the Crozius Arcanum, which is Strength +2, making it Strength 6, -1 AP and 2 damage. And then the Frag and Crack Grenades, which are the standard for Marines. Now on paper alone, even without the upgrades, I think I'm going to give that one to the Command Barge. They're not miles apart, but just because of the fact that you can fire into combat because it's a vehicle, that's going to be bringing up that damage output. Now as for the synergy, in fact, let me go back to that. Before we get into the synergy, I've got a synergy combination for you, and I wasn't sure whether to put this in the synergy section or the damage output section. I think I'm going to put it into the damage output section. Let me go through the combo for you anyway. You probably heard this on some previous videos I've done in the past. So use the Benediction of Fury Relic on your Chaplain to replace that Crozius Arcanum. So it's still going to have a Strength 6, but it will -2 AP and 3 damage, and 6s will inflict a mortal wound. Then what you do is you get the Imperium Sword Warlord trait to reroll your charge rolls, and you get a +1 to your strength and +1 to your attacks. And then with your litanies, use the mantra of strength to +1 to your attacks and +1 to your strength and +1 to your damage as well. So all in all, what this actually does is gives you a rerollable charge with 7 attacks, strength 8, -2 AP and 4 damage a pop. and 6s will inflict mortal wounds. Even though these are upgrades, none of this actually costs anything apart from your relic slot and your warlord trait slot, and of course your litany slot, but you're going to be taking litanies anyway. So again, I wasn't sure whether to put this in the synergy section or the damage output section, but for this video I'm going to put it back into the damage output section. It's too big to ignore, and I'm going to reward the point to the Chaplain. I think that damage output is way too strong to be chucking into the synergy area. Now going back into that synergy area, you could actually boost it even further with a Might of Heroes with a Librarian to +1 to your strength, toughness and attacks, which will now put that on a strength 9 as well, which is ridiculous. Now if you didn't quite fancy that, you could take the Purgatorus, which is a relic to replace your pistol, 18-inch pistol, 3 shots, strength 5, -3 AP and 2 damage. Now in terms of the chapters, there's 5 that are picked out here. You can use them for all the chapters if I'm honest. The 5 that are strongest for me: White Scars because you can advance and charge, Black Templars, they've got their own litany page within their supplement, which are completely different to the standard Space Marine litanies. You've got the Dark Angels Raven Wing, so it's going to have all sorts of synergy with the Raven Wing bikes in particular. Space Wolves just to be buffing other units within the Space Wolf supplement that are going to be melee based, and also they've got the Healing Balm stratagem in the supplement. For only a command point, you get a Space Wolves Wolf Priest to be able to heal D3 lost wounds to an infantry, biker or cavalry unit. As you remember from the ability section, he gains the Wolf Priest keyword, so he can basically be a chaplain as well as an apothecary for you. And Blood Angels for that +1 to the wound roll, on top of the +1 to the charge roll and advance roll as well, of course. Now being a Master of Sanctity has its own unique benefit, so there's a warlord trait and a relic in there. Now it doesn't necessarily have to take these, but I just wanted to make sure you're aware of them. When you take the Wise Array to warlord trait, you can +1 to your litanies rolls, and when you're using the commanding oratory stratagem, it's going to only cost you 1 command point as opposed to 2. We'll go over that after this slide, but the relic is the Emperor's Judgment, and your opponent's units cannot be re-rolling any hit rolls, re-rolling any wound rolls, and re-rolling any damage rolls against your Chaplain. And then furthermore, the bearer's got the following aura. So while an enemy unit was within 6 inches of the bearer, any morale test taken for that unit, roll an additional d6 and discard the lowest result. So more chance of them failing the morale test there. But for that commanding oratory stratagem, which is a chaplain only stratagem, you can basically recite a litany in any other phases other than the command phase, because that's normally the phase where you're actually doing it. And you don't have to roll for it either, it automatically inspires. Other stratagems of note: Transhuman Physiology, because it's a Primaris unit, so you can't win on less than a 4+, very similar to Quantum Shielding there. And only in Defter's Duty End for 2 command points, because he's a character. If he does get destroyed, you can stand him up and let him have his attacks before removing him. Unit synergy wise, I like to use them with the Outriders because they can shoot as well as fight, and they're very good to provide a lookout Sir bubble with that unit. Or you can go with those attack bites because they've got the core keyword, so he can be buffing them up with his litanies, especially if you're taking those multi-melters on the sides. If you want a more melee based unit that's got a bit of speed to keep up with the bikes, I always like to use the Vanguard Veterans, tons of attacks with the in-1 saves with the shields if you're taking the shields, and those jump packs of course are necessary. And the last one of note here, you can go vehicle heavy, take a Redemptor Dreadnought, also provides a Lookout Sir ability, and the Dreadnought of course has the core keyword. Now onto the Command Barge. With the dynasties, there's 4 that I've highlighted here: the Mefrit dynasty for the range, the Nihilak dynasty for objective secured, which is very good on a Quantum Shield vehicle, the Zerakan dynasty to be able to reroll a single wound roll, and you're also going to be having a feel no pain save against mortal wounds with a 5+, and the Novak code for that +1 to the charge roll, as well as getting an additional bit of AP on the first round of the fight. Now there is a bit more synergy in terms of relics and buffs and whatnot, which we've already gone over in our Overlord video when we did the Overlord versus the Captain video, so check that one out if you haven't already. There's some repeat stuff there, also work with this video as well, so just check that one out. But a very common combination for a Command Barge is taking the Boltite Staff Relic, which is 18-inch, Assault 4, Strength 6, -2 AP, 2 damage, with 6s scoring additional hits of course. Then it's got the same characteristics in melee. Then furthermore, you take the Enduring Will Warlord trait for a -1 to all damage taken. Again, on a Quantum Shield vehicle, that's going to be pretty massive. Some people like to use the Void Reaper, which is just a basic upgrade of a War Scythe. If you are taking a War Scythe, in this particular video we're not, but we'll mention it anyway. Strength 7, -4 AP, 3 damage, but you're ignoring feel no pain saves. And likewise with the Resurrection Orb, if you were to take a Resurrection Orb, you can upgrade to the Orb of Eternity. Now I don't want to go too deep into that because we've not put it in this video. As for unit synergy, they of course work very well with Necron Warriors, allowing them to hit on 2s with their Gorse Flayers or their Gorse Reapers. You've got lots of new core units now, the Scorbit Destroyers or Canoptic Wraiths for example, they're now core, so giving them a +1 to their hit rolls is pretty decent, and of course they can keep up with the Command Barge because they're quick enough. Stratagems for him, well, you got the Hand of the Pharaon so that you can use your Mind Will Be Done ability twice, providing that you've not got any Pharaons within your list, and Curse of the Pharaon, which is an automatic explosion for your vehicle. Then the final bit of synergy here is for the Canoptic Spiders. When they're using their Fabrication Claw Array, they can heal a vehicle model D3 wounds every single turn. Now they're not likely going to be used with a Command Barge because they can't really keep up with it because of the speed, but it is an option there. if you weren't going too far with it. But for me, overall synergy, I'm going to be giving it to the Chaplain on a bike. Now the reason is, his abilities don't just work with core units, they work with core units as well as character units. Now don't get me wrong, there's tons of units that are going to work with the Command Barge, especially with the new core units within the Codex. But how many core units are within the Space Marine Codex, as well as characters on top of that? That was probably another controversial one, but I'm going to be giving it to the Chaplain on a bike there. Now as for resiliency, of course you've got to talk about quantum shielding with that 5+ invuln save, and furthermore you can boost that with a quantum deflection stratagem to make that a 4+ invulnerable save for only a command point. It's also got living metal, of course, to regain a lost wound. And then when you're looking at the overall figures, it's got 9 wounds as opposed to 7 with the Chaplain on the bike. It's toughness 6, whereas the bike is only toughness 5. It does have slightly less of an invuln save of a 5+ as opposed to a 4+, but it does have quantum shielding, which can't really be ignored when you put all those together, so that point is going to the Command Barge. So that puts us on the tiebreaker, unfortunately, so we've got to go to the threat. That's the topic that I've been using throughout the series. What am I most afraid of? And you may have actually guessed it, but it was that combination I spoke about earlier with the Chaplain. Using that specific combo of the Relic, the Warlord trait, and the Litany, it makes him an absolute powerhouse when he goes upfield, smacking things around. Now I played with both of these models. Now every time I've taken a Chaplain on a bike, he's taken out something massive. He's taken out all sorts of big and scary monsters, and very swiftly as well. It hasn't taken him the whole game to do so. Whereas the Command Barge is more of a support vehicle. It does have its damage output, but it's there to support other units, which I'm more afraid of. Whereas one-on-one, I'm going with the Chaplain on a bike. So again, very controversial this video, but that puts the scores 4 points to 3 in favour of the Chaplain on the bike. Now that damage one was a little bit iffy. I've highlighted that one in yellow. I'm not sure if that should have been in the synergy section or not. Let me know in the comments below. Either way, this is just a bit of fun at the end of the day. I absolutely love both of these models. As already mentioned, both of these models are probably my most favourite HQs within the entire game. So it's actually quite sad for me to see one of these lose this video. So that in fact makes the overall tally very close again. Team Necrons are still winning, but it's only 12 points to 11 with only 2 days to go before Christmas. And that includes Christmas Day, of course. We're doing a video on the 25th. So guys, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.